Goodman and Hummel podcast, and we got Robbie Hummel.
I'd known you since you were a kid.
I could blow my knee out, both knees, and still kick your ass.
We're trying to find the Robbie Hummel statue.
I wanted to kill you. You would do this literally with a palm tree in the back. Where are you? You're in Florida now?
St. Augustine, Florida. Yes.
You have an elite backdrop.
We are coming to you from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida. I feel better. Thanks for asking how I feel, by the way.
I've talked to you since you've been sick.
I know. I got hit. I got hit pretty hard. So did you. You canceled. Listen, you pushed it back last week, and then we couldn't do it on Thursday. I got sick.
I pushed it back because I work. I have work to do.
All right. That's fair.
You pushed it back because you were under the weather.
I was sick. And then I had a death in the family, so I had to fly back home.
Sorry to hear that. Yes.
And now we're here. Well, I'm here, and I might play golf. I might actually work on my driving skills, since that might be part of our competition.
You need it. Hold on, let me plug my computer in here.
Oh, look at you! You're not even prepared.
I really don't give a shit about this podcast
You're
anymore.
ill-prepared.
So.
You're completely ill-prepared, as usual.
That's fine.
All right, here we go. Let's. It's been a couple weeks, and
are we already recording?
We're
recording. Recording.
Yeah, we're recording. We've been recording. The slander is always good for the audience. They need to know how mean you are. They need to know how mean-spirited Robbie Hummel really is.
Only to you. Only to one person in the world.
It's not true. I've heard it's other people.
Ooh.
I don't know. I've heard other people are involved here.
Wow.
There's other former teammates that say that you
my former teammates would stand by me as a good teammate.
All right. Anyway, let's get to it. There's been a lot going on. We'll start in the Big Ten because that is your league, and that's where you've been doing most of your work lately. And I'll tell you what, the biggest surprise to me, Rob, was after watching Michigan State in the Champions Classic, I wrote them off. I wrote off Tom Izzo and the Spartans as a national title contender. And I'm not sure they're a national title contender, but a Final Four contender even. I said there's no way in hell Tom Izzo is going to get this team back to where he wants it, which is, let's face it, not just getting in the tournament, but making a run. What has it been? I mean, they're 50-2 and 6-0 in the league now. Why?
So, well, they've won 10 straight since the loss to Memphis down in Hawaii. And I think schedule has to be considered. For all of the top teams in the Big Ten, like the Tier 1, Illinois has played at Oregon. That's obviously a really tough place with the way that Oregon has played this year. But like Purdue's schedule has been favorable up until, I think, Oregon this weekend. And, Michigan State, you look at who they've played. Minnesota, that's a bottom half team. Nebraska, kind of teetering, I would say, right now on whether they're top half, bottom half. Ohio State, they look like they could be a top half team, but they're not in the top tier of opponents. Northwestern on the road, it's a good win, but again, you're not, so. And then Penn State at home. So, like, they've done exactly what they're supposed to do. I think the encouraging thing about this has to be the way they're rebounding, running, defending. Like, those things have been staples of their program for so long, since he got the job in the mid-90s. And they've talked about wanting to do those things the last couple of years, but they haven't done them. They have not done those things. And I just think I really give Tom Izzo a lot of credit. We know he's anti-portal. He's not a fan. Goes out and gets Frankie Fiddler, and then gets this Shimon Zapawa guy who, if you're looking at his numbers, you're going to say, well, he's, he averages 7 and 5, and I think it was Longwood. Played in the NCAA tournament, but that's not moving the needle on the portal reports that you get in the spring. But I think the fit there, the physicality, those two guys have fit in with this group. And then just the development from within, Jeremy Fears taking a step. Jaden Aiken's taking a step. Jace Richardson being a player.
But
Jace Richardson
too, Rob,
quietly, before
Rob,
you go, Jace Richardson has had an unbelievable season up to this point.
Yep. You
Go
said
ahead.
fears. The big thing for you also with the physical play and the rebounding was the pace that Michigan State plays with now as opposed to what they've played with the last couple of years under with A.J. Hoggard running the ship.
Yeah. And in fairness, there was a clip that went out on Big Ten Network where I kind of said, in fairness to AJ Hoggard, and people I think kind of unfairly criticized him as being like a bad teammate, and he wasn't that. Like the guys in their team liked him. I just think that him and Tom Izzo are two stubborn people, and it was hard for them to kind of coexist. And in fairness, again, to last year's team, they didn't defend like this, and they didn't defensive rebound like this. So if you're not doing those two things, it's hard to, like, they'll run off makes, but it's a lot easier to run off misses. And if you're not getting the misses and you're not getting stops, it's harder to run. So there's kind of a couple factors that I think have played into that, but there's no question Jeremy Fears is pushing that ball, and he's got burst, and he looks up the floor, and they've got wings that are running those wings, and they're awesome to watch in transition. They get out and they go.
So are they now? Are you with me? Illinois is still the class of the Big Ten at this point.
Yeah,
or no?
I think so. I mean, the Penn State or the USC loss was pretty jarring, but USC has some guys, and like Des Claude can obviously really play. I think yes. I think Illinois is still, in my mind, the favorite, but I think the top tier would be Michigan, even with last night's loss, Michigan State, Illinois, maybe Purdue, maybe Oregon, depending on how that game shakes out this weekend. I think those are the top 5 teams in the league, and I don't think there's any doubt to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we thought like Maryland might have the talent before, but again, they don't have a big win, and then losing Northwestern. That was a nice win for Northwestern.
It was
in home court in overtime against Maryland, and I just don't know if Maryland can win on the road. I just don't know if they can win on the road at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Washington loss is certainly discouraging. No shame in losing a tough one at Oregon. Last night they had plenty of opportunities, but you're right. What's their best win is Ohio State probably, and then Villanova neutral. Those would be their 2 best wins.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I just wonder if there's a little bit of a gap. Illinois, and I know we're going to look at that loss and probably – I don't want to make too much of it. I mean, they were still without their best player in that game.
No question. No question. And I think just the surprising thing was you watched them blitz Penn State, and then you're like, well, this is just going to be the way it is, right? And USC is starting to play better. They're certainly not the team that we saw lose to St. Mary's by 40. They've kind of figured some things out, and they punched Illinois in the mouth. But I love the response by Illinois, going to Indiana and winning by 30 points and being up 30 at half.
Boy.
Certainly the injury to Yakashonis plays a big part of that. I think just the surprise of seeing them blitz Penn State and then lose to USC like that was jarring.
Well, I hate when people are like, well, Yakashonis isn't worth however many points, right, that USC beat him by.
No, but the thing is they run everything through him.
Right.
They run every play through him.
The game is completely different. It's not about whether somebody's worth, if you lose by 20, is he worth 20 points? The whole game changes without a guy like that.
Well, on top of that, he gives you one more guy with size to throw at Desmond Claude. I'm not saying he's slowing him down, but at least he gives you another option. If you're worried about Claude being able to score over guys at the rim, Yakashonis is 6'6". So,
I'm still a big believer in the Illini. Yeah. And I might even be a believer in the Illini now as like, I don't know if national title contender. Like, I'm not sure.
I think that they could easily make the Final Four. They guard. They've got shooting. They've got a lottery pick playmaker. They fill all the kind of boxes that you would say. And like you look at KenPom, top 20 offense, top 10 defense. That's usually the recipe to see, can this team make the Final Four? And right now they fill that.
All right. So speaking of the Illini, you were there in Bloomington the other night when they absolutely laid it on Indiana. I mean, it was 60-32 at half, Rob.
Yep.
And the final score was 25. It was the second straight 25-point loss that the Hoosiers took. And, I want to ask you a little bit about Indiana here, because I think at this point we felt like Indiana coming into the year, they had $5 million plus in NIL. They retained some key pieces, one of which isn't playing, Malik Renew. But I think a lot of people, I don't know if you're in that mix, felt like without two bigs, it actually forces Woodson to have to
put more
play.
Skill on the floor.
Yeah, get
on
more spacing, and it would help them. And it looked like for a minute that it did.
Yeah,
I mean,
the initial returns were good.
Exactly. But the last couple of games, it hasn't looked good. And, as much as anything, you just feel like when you're watching this Indiana team that they don't care. They don't – there were some clips being shown of Umar Ballo not getting back. And Ballo was great during that stretch, right?
Yeah, he played really hard for that
he came out
stretch.
He was terrific. And then they just put up two stinkers. What were you thinking when you were watching this game? Did it hit you of like the effort and how bad it was for Indiana and how
I don't know if it
was
more so effort or if it was just more like fundamental breakdowns. Okay, Kasparas Giakoušionis is coming back from a left wrist injury. He hasn't practiced. He hasn't played. First three shots he gets are literally uncontested three breakdown, wide open three because Ballo just doesn't guard him because he's mixed up in transition, and layup. So you gift a lottery pick 8 points to start the game. And like you could hear any coach in America say it, don't let good players get their heads up, especially when they've been down, whether it's by performance or by injury. So you gift him a running start. And then just the lack of blocking out. Those are high school, middle school type discussions that should be, you figure that stuff out when you're a kid. Shot goes up, find a body. You go block out. There was zero block out. I mean, Illinois had so many offensive rebounds in that first half. It was like, how are you going to win if you don't block out? And they had problems against teams like UNC Greensboro and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And some of the games, if you watched early, the same mistakes are still being made. So, if you're not going to block out against Greensboro, what's Illinois going to do to you? One of the best offensive rebounding teams, not just in the conference, but in the country. The breakdowns defensively, there's too many times where guys are getting back cut, guys are lost, guys aren't sure who they're guarding. That's the type of stuff that in this league you will get embarrassed. And they got embarrassed. And now you have to wonder, what's the response? They have one quad one win, Penn State at the Palestra. You look at who's coming up at Ohio State, at Northwestern, Maryland, at Purdue, at Wisconsin, Michigan State on the road. So the good thing for them is that there still is opportunity. They need quad one wins. Every game will give them opportunity, right? But you also, the opportunities come against good people who can beat you. And the last two games, Indiana has not shown us anything. And it's concerning that when they lose, man, they get just destroyed. Yeah. It's not, you look at their losses. Louisville was like 28. Gonzaga, 16, but not that close. Nebraska was actually close, but they lose by 17. Iowa by 25 and Illinois by 25. So my question to the players would be like, where is the competitive spirit? Why when things go bad and adversity hits, why do you guys get beat by 30 points? Why is there no fight? And this is a new team built by NIL, but to say they don't care, that might be a little strong. You hope they care, but only they know in that locker room, But they've got it. If they're not better, they're not making the NCAA tournament, and it would be highly disappointing with their roster.
All right, so here's my question for you on a macro level is, again, Umar Ballo gets somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million, right? Give or take a little bit on either end. He's getting big money. Coleman Hawkins is getting, close to $2 million out in Kansas State. Ugonna Onyensu's getting big money at Kansas State as well. There's a lot of guys that got paid, that really got paid here, again, before revenue sharing goes in. How much of an impact do you think these guys that aren't NBA players, Rob, They're not because they've already tried that.
If they were, they'd be there.
Correct. If they were, especially, Hawkins and Ballo, they've been in college basketball for, now 4 or 5 years. So how much do you think some of these guys, when you give them that type of money, that it's almost like harder? It shouldn't be harder to motivate because there's pressure now.
Well, and there's more money to be had. If you're actually thinking like this, that's a very short term. But we see this in the NBA a lot. Guys get paid and the performance kind of goes down, right? Like you become comfortable, and certainly that there's like I guess a feeling of maybe just like, hey, I've made it. But the thing is, no, you haven't. Like, even if you're getting Coleman Hawkins money, $2 million, $1 million of that's going to the IRS. All right. You have agent fees. Like, it's a lot of money, but it's not gonna, you still will have to work. You're not getting 2 million one time and being like, well, I'm set for life. Like, you need to keep building on that. But I think it's hard to look at the long game, especially as a college kid, when you're like, man, this is the most money I've ever had. But I think I talked to a guy I know, he's a financial advisor, and he's been helping around the community that he lives in with a school that's there with their players in NIL. And he's like, these kids have no idea about taxes. Like, they have no clue. So it's like, they're
buying multiple cars. They're buying multiple cars right away instead of somebody telling them, hey, you know what? This isn't going to last forever.
Listen
you have
to
an
this,
opportunity here.
I walked out of a Big Ten arena at some point this year, and there was a player that was walking out with me, and we were going to the parking lot. He got in a Range Rover. That's a $120,000 car.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, all right, he's probably making a good amount of money, but that's a major purchase. Now, maybe hopefully it's like a dealership deal or like a lease, maybe. I don't know. But still, when you're thinking about what you're making, you're not making $8 million. You're not making $5 million. I don't even know that dude's making $1 million. But it's just, I don't know. The whole thing and you could throw AJ Storr into this mix as a guy that got paid a lot of money. The performance hasn't really been all that great from guys that supposedly got the most.
That's right.
And that'll be interesting to watch kind of as we go forward in this. Now it's going to change with the revenue sharing, at least at the power conference level. But yeah, I don't know, man. It is such a different day from what even this was 6 or 7 years ago.
Hey, I also on a side note here, I also got a call from a couple coaches recently, and they said there's this rule that may go into place where you can get 5 years now coming up, that they're going to vote on it, and everybody's going to get 5 years.
Dude, what are we doing?
So
why?
no, even beyond that,
why? Like, what is the thought of that?
I don't even know, but I guess I can be okay with playing 5 years, whatever. I don't love it. I don't love it. But I'm like not 100%.
College is 4 years for most people.
Right.
Why would we make this 5?
I guess
unless you get injured, if you get hurt, okay. If you have to redshirt, you have a season-ending injury, you don't get to play. I'm with that.
Yep.
Totally. But why would we just give out a 5th year just to give it if you've already played 4?
Then the next
and
step,
you know what actually sucks about this? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
1,000 points used to be like that was the gold standard. But that doesn't mean shit anymore because all these dudes play, 5, 6 years.
Yep.
All those records, and this is not a slight
remember
to
when
Jordan
Bohannon,
but
Jordan Davis was going to beat Pete Maravich's record, right?
Yeah.
On 5 years.
I don't like that. Or like Jordan Bohannon setting the all-time three-point record in the Big Ten. John Diebler did it in 4 seasons. Bohannon, he did it in 5. So I don't know. I just don't like that. I really don't. And that's no offense to Antoine Davis and no offense to Jordan Bohannon. It's just a simple fact of the more years, the more games, the more points, threes, whatever you can score or make.
You know what coaches think might be next, Rob? And I'm not kidding on this one.
Oh, God. What?
Is that anybody who's enrolled in college, however many years you're enrolled, however old you are, that if you're enrolled, you should be allowed to play college sports. So legitimately, you could be in your 7th, 8th year. You could be your age. So what I'm telling you is if you wanted to go back for your 8th year as a grad student to Purdue or somewhere else. Maybe go to Duke. Maybe Shire wants to coach you. I don't know.
Yeah, he's played. You know, he saw how good I was at the Hamlin Park run a couple years ago when he was there, and maybe
right.
he's things are going to help.
You could have a year left. Like if you wanted to go and get your grad degree.
So wait, I could turn pro.
Yes.
Play pro, and then be like, you know what? I'm starting to get washed at this level. I'll go play in college.
Well, these Europeans, all these international guys, you said it to me, are coming in having played. And you know this because you played pro over there at a high level, right? These kids have played Ivicic, right, from Illinois.
Well, no, it was Fedor Zugic for Creighton.
Zugic,
I was like, he has played in like 95 top division German league games and averaged 10 a game last year. I was like, wait. Now, granted, it was on one of the teams that's like kind of, at least this year, they're in last. I didn't look what they were last year when he played, but still, for a 19-year-old or 20-year-old kid to average 10 a game in the top German league, the competition is pretty good.
Yes.
I can't, it's just crazy that he was pro in Germany. And now, dude, I got crushed on, not crushed, but people were tweeting at me during the IU Illinois game that Ivicic is a sophomore. I literally thought he was a freshman. I'm like, oh, I missed his NCAA hearing because he's a first-year player.
He lost
the
the year.
Pro basketball. It's like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing?
I mean, imagine, though, the day if it comes, because the NCAA won't want to fight that legally. They lose every lawsuit. So if some kid says, hey, I know I'm in my 8th year in college, I know I'm 34 years old.
Dude, think about that. Like just some NBA player that still wants to play, and he's like on the decline, but he's like, you know what? I could still kill. I'm still good enough to be good at that level. And you know what? They'll pay me, and I'll just go, and I'll go back. That is a terrible, terrible idea.
Right, I left.
But you're right.
I got to get my degree.
Lawsuit, and
right, I got to get I want to get my degree because I'm 34 and whatever. I'm going to go take online classes. I don't even have to step foot in the classroom anymore. I can get my degree online. And oh, by the way, yeah, coach, like whoever.
Can you imagine like just a 34-year-old? Like who would be in that role right now? Like if DeAndre Jordan was like, I'm about to just go back and be a physical presence. Like now, granted, he's lost some of his athleticism, but I'm trying to think of like who more of a skill guy, like who's an older skill guy that's at the end, kind of like college wise or of their NBA wise, and would be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go back to college and get buckets.
I mean, you go to even like an Ish Smith, somebody like an Ish Smith.
I love Ish Smith. He is so fast.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Ish Smith, you want a pure point guard who's a great leader, great program
knows
guy.
how to run the team.
Yeah, bring him back to Wake.
What if Chris Paul was like, you know what? I'm going to rejuvenate Wake Forest.
Right. Yes.
I'm going to go back to Wake and just be the best point guard in the country because I know how to do it so well.
And I'll sue the NCAA, if not, because I got the money to hire a big-time lawyer, and the NCAA won't want to fight. I'm telling you, we could be there.
T4's biggest commitment yet. Chris Paul, 39 years old.
Chris Paul coming back for one more year.
That can't happen. We can't have that. We can't have that.
Oh, I hope we don't. But man, nothing's out the window right now for the way this is heading. Nothing is out the window.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythms metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right. Let's talk about the National Player of the Year conversation, Rob. And it's been, I think, a two-horse race for most of the first 2 months of the year between Janai Broome of Auburn, who recently got hurt. I was at the game. He got hurt. And Cam Jones, who you're going to see. Marquette play who? Who you seeing him
Xavier.
play? Xavier.
Play Xavier tomorrow.
I think those were the two front runners. Now I will say I'm not so sure Cooper Flagg, coming off his 42-point performance the other night against Notre Dame, hasn't leapt into the top spot.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this, Rob. Look, I'm going to tell you these numbers right now. As a freshman, as a mostly 17-year-old freshman for most of the year so far, he is averaging 18.7 points, 8.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, a steal and a half, more than a block, and now he's shooting 35%.
I was going to say, he's starting to shoot it from three, right?
Correct. Like, tell me those numbers aren't absolutely ridiculous for a freshman on a really good team.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to a coach that I know that has actually gone up against him, and he was talking about just like how amazing it is that even with all his ability and the shooting starting to come along, that he's a willing passer. Like that's where they're like, dude, he is willing to pass and he's willing to make plays for others, but he can also obviously score, and now he's shooting it, he's rebounding. Like he's a monster, man. That dude. But I think we all had to kind of think that this was coming after seeing the way that he was able to compete in the summer against the Olympic team. Like you're not going to be able to
42 in a game. I'm not going to lie.
No, but if you're hanging with LeBron and those guys and like scoring and holding your own, and you've got those guys asking questions of, where's he play overseas? Oh, he's 17. If you're doing that against them, you're probably going to have pretty good success against college players. Now, 42 is 42. I don't care if you score 40 in a high school game. 40 is impressive. You know, like, but to do it in an ACC game is insane.
You know what the most impressive thing about him? The most impressive thing is in this day and age where, again, we talked about it earlier, guys playing hard one night, Umar Ballo, and playing lazy the next. And he's not the only one.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg, legitimately, you cannot tell by watching him that if he's making $1 or $2 million. I have no idea. He plays hard on every possession. His facial expression doesn't change. He plays defense. He plays hard every game. Like, it's insane. That is the part to me why Duke has a chance to win the whole thing this year, and that is the part to me why, if you're an NBA team, you're tanking. I mean, listen, there's three guys. There's three guys at the top. You and I have talked about this. It's Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey. Those are probably the three that everybody's kind of tanking for right now. But to me, Cooper Flagg is a can't-miss guy. He is a can't-miss
and compare him to Ace. Like, I think Ace has a chance to just make unlimited money and be an unbelievable player, but the lulls he has defensively, if you watch Rutgers play, that's not necessarily – now, his shot making is insane. Like, in the things that he can do, you cannot teach. Like, you cannot teach guys how to just make the shots that he is capable of making. And, you know, Indiana found the shots he's making in Assembly Hall, insane. But I think that defensively, there's some room for improvement and certainly some effort, things that leave a little bit to be desired that you usually like kind of live with a guy that's that talented. But how refreshing to see a guy in Cooper Flagg that is that talented and, like you said, plays hard every time.
I think he's going to be the player of the year. I really do. I think he's going to be the national player of the year. It's funny.
And especially if Janai Broome misses, like, is he close to being back?
They're hoping optimism that he might come back next weekend for the Tennessee game at home. Game days.
Because I guess, like, if he comes back and is just hooping and Auburn is number one team in the country, you could make a legitimate case. And Cam Jones, you know, his year has been unbelievable. You know, I know his shooting has kind of taken a hit here from three, but Yeah, I
Here
think
are the two
Janai Broom's the one guy that I think could challenge Cooper Flagg for that.
Agreed, because he has advantages, right? Marquette #1 isn't on ESPN all the time.
Yeah.
Right? #1. And Cooper Flagg is playing in an ACC right now where how many matchups are at the highest level of importance? What does he have?
The Carolina game, because it's to Carolina, but other than that, there aren't any.
2 games. 2 games where you're going to circle with Cooper Flagg, where honestly, half of the games that Janai Broom has left.
No, the SEC, and I think that kind of probably hurts. Cam Jones outside of UConn,
right?
I guess St. John's.
Yep.
Those are probably the
Creighton's
two. Creighton,
intriguing.
I throw Creighton in there. Creighton's intriguing, yeah. Georgetown maybe, but they're struggling with some of the best teams in the league right now. So,
yeah, no, Broom. Listen, it's going to be interesting to see what Auburn does. I saw him a week or so ago down in South Carolina, and saw him at Duke. I like him. Listen, I like him a lot, and I think they're deserving of the #1 spot. I will say this, Rob. I don't think they're that much better than whoever's 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think there's a big gap, and I was actually talking to Bruce Pearl about that after the game, and he agrees. Like, they're good. They're very good. They got a lot of good players, and they got depth, and the pieces fit, and they shoot the shit out of the ball, and they play hard. And I love Pettiford. I still think Tahad Pettiford's kind of the key to their team in terms of taking that next jump, because he's that small, explosive guard that Bruce Pearl has done wonders with, and he can you can give him the ball. And I think Baker Mazar has been great too, and it gives him kind of energy.
Yeah. You know what else I think, though? I think Auburn has the benefit of a lot of returnees and a lot of hungry returnees on a team that lost to Yale last year. And I thought, as a player in college, you go through certain things. Like when it was our team, we got our ass kicked by Duke. And it was the year before they won the national title. It was Shire, Gerald Henderson, Kyle Singler, those guys. They beat the shit out of us. And it literally, I think, changed the way that we thought about playing hard. And it changed our thought of, man, that's an elite team. We might have a ranking that says that we're one of the elite teams. I think they were 4 and we were like 6. But that's what an elite team looks like. But it helped us for the next year. And it helped us later on in the season, because you see that. And then you're able to beat teams. Like, I really believe that Auburn will make a run, because last year you go through what you go through against Yale. And everybody's back, and it drives you for an offseason, and they're super talented. They're super talented.
Yeah, I mean, they're talented. I don't know if they're as talented as Alabama, but I will say this. They're much further along. They're much further along at this point. Alabama is still trying to figure out.
But Alabama had a lot of turnover. Auburn has so many guys back.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. And the other thing is, I think role allocation is important, and that's pretty clear cut at Auburn. Where at Alabama, Nate Oates is kind of still trying to figure that out. I mean, they just lose. They're coming off a loss at home to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Chris Beard, the biggest win.
Ole Miss.
Yeah, biggest win of Beard's career at Ole Miss. But it's like, if you're Nate Oates, you're trying to figure out right now the minutes, and you're trying to integrate Chris Youngblood, and they're not shooting the ball nearly as well from 3.
Yeah,
without Reitzel,
but still going bombs away from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean, he still wants to shoot 30, 40 times a game.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you have the personnel to do that right now.
Yeah.
And I think
how has Amori been?
Just okay. Okay.
That's kind of how he was.
He doesn't really fit. He doesn't really fit the way they want to play. Like, he's a matchup guy, in my opinion. Like, it's good to have him for the NCAA tournament, because at times you're going to need him against certain teams and certain bigs.
Jeff, you say that as if like Alabama is looking to throw the ball in the post and have him work out. It's lobs and it's rim protection. So
it's more for defense. Yeah, it's more for defense.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that you would say that it's not working that well, but
I just, again, he doesn't, if you're not going to throw the ball to him in the post, and they haven't, they'd rather have bigs that can step out. So it was almost like they got him because they could, and they knew they needed a big, because last year they didn't have anybody. And, I still think this team, again, you still have Mark Sears, who's playing much better overall the last month. Grant Nelson is a veteran. The kid Fallon is talented. He was horrible against Ole Miss. but he is super talented. Youngbloods and Holloway, like they got to shoot it at the level that they thought they were going to be shooting at to be able to justify shooting that many threes.
Dude, Nick Pringle is going to come find you, saying they had nobody at center last year.
I know. I saw him walking out of the arena the other night against South Carolina. He's not going to like that. He's not going to like that.
He would not. But
all right. Well, listen.
That'll be interesting.
I think I got a boat ride coming. No, I really don't. I don't.
God.
But there's been a few boats that have gone by here.
I saw one of them. I wanted to vomit.
It's nice here. It's nice. Next week, 2 weeks, we'll be in Delray. It'll be warmer. I'll definitely play golf down there. Definitely playing golf.
Send some video. I want to see it.
My golf swing is not pretty. It's not
I'm
pretty.
good at any sports. You know what was great? I sent a tweet out about the Spieth Center, which honestly is an iconic AAU venue. If you're from the Midwest, and even if you're not, there was teams that were not from the Midwest that would play there. It was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We won the state championship there when I was in, I want to say, 6th grade. We won the Indiana State Championship at the Spieth Center, and but like Spieth became kind of the sponsor for the Indy Heat. So you got Oden and Conley and Daquan. The first time I saw Greg Oden and Mike Conley was at Spieth Center, and it was those two, Daquan Cook, Eric Gordon. And you're like, oh my God, this team is amazing. They were stacked. But like, if you're from the Midwest, you were going in there, and you know what they've turned it into? A pickleball venue. Yeah, you and my dad are like so happy. But the funny thing was, when I tweeted it, all the responses are just crushing pickleball. Because, there's so many memories for all these basketball players that played in college, didn't play in college, went to D1 camp, all that stuff. Spieth was like the mecca, dude. If you were playing at Spieth, it was a big tournament. There was big-time players, big-time teams. It's sad, man. That's really sad to see.
Was Greg Oden the best player you ever saw in AAU ball or no?
No, Durant.
Durant was better. Okay.
But you look at our class, like Derrick Rose, Eric Gordon, K-Love, Michael Beasley. Mike Beasley broke my nose so bad in an AAU game. Just wiped me out.
Broke your nose?
Yeah, look at how terrible it looks. It was the first right there.
I thought that was just how you were born.
No, I've broken my nose. Jacob Pollin broke it severely in Russia, and then I had to go to the Russian hospital. Spent the night in a Russian hospital.
Oh, that had to be nice.
Yeah, this nurse came in. She didn't speak English. She just rolled me over and gave me a shot of something in my lower leg. I was like, "Is that heroin?" What did she just shoot me with?
No idea.
And I'm pointing at my nose. It's bleeding. I'm concussed. Then they brought these rods in the next morning. They're going to set my nose. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. No chance. I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow. You're not doing that. But yeah, it was Durant. Just because you're like, this guy's 7 foot tall and he's a 2-guard. You know who else played on my Nike All-American team that was so good was Ty Lawson.
Oh,
Ty Lawson had 50 points in one of our games.
He was as fast as anybody. Maybe Derrick Rose, John Wall.
D Rose was just like the violent change of direction by Derrick.
John Wall when he was young
was
as fast. Ish Smith. Those were the
Ish is one of the fastest guys I've ever seen.
Yeah, those guys could move. Oden, how much did you play with him or against him?
I never played against Greg
really
in high school. Really? Which is crazy because, I was on the varsity for his junior and senior years at Valpo when he was at Lawrence North. Every time we were going to play Spieth Indy Heat, this is so bad. I shouldn't even tell you this. They sent their B team. And it's not like we had bad players, but we played in the Indiana State tournament in order to get into nationals down in Florida. And, you see on this thing, it's like, oh, wow, Spieth Indy Heat's going to be here. But it ended up being Oden's brother, Damian Wyndham from Lawrence. It was the second team. So we didn't play in Vegas. That's where they would be. We didn't play on, what was it? Was it Real Deal on the Hill?
Yeah, in Arkansas.
They'd be down there for Reebok. We didn't play Bob Givens because we were on the Nike circuit. Was Bob Givens everything?
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder why we didn't play in that. We didn't play in Bob Givens, but we played, at the Spieth Memorial Day, the Nike Memorial Day. obviously Peach Jam, but we didn't see those guys at Peach Jam or Super Showcase. They didn't play in nationals. They went to Vegas. So no, I only played against Greg and Mike Conley in the NBA.
That dude, man, he was just so dominant and didn't say a word.
He's like the nicest guy.
Ever.
You see him now, you talk to him, great guy. I
He
wish
and
I'd
Conley
gotten
both.
to see him.
I
I
mean,
wish
they're
I'd
very
gotten to see him in
different.
high school.
Conley
You know what?
and
Mike
Odin
is
are-
and Mike is a phenomenal.
Did
like
you
the
see
gold
this
standard
stat?
team.
Did you see that stat last week that he's played like 1,200 games without a technical in the NBA?
I'm sure that doesn't surprise me. You know what's funny? My dad got this TV. I think my sophomore year of high school was like one of the early HD TVs. So it was huge. Now you look at those things; they're so skinny, but this thing was massive, wide or like width-wise. And there was this HD channel that, for whatever reason, would have high school basketball games in HD. So Monta Ellis was in high school at that time, so they had one of Monta Ellis, and they'd kind of like replay them. And there was a Lawrence North, Indianapolis, Arlington game that they, for whatever reason, filmed with these cameras that looked HD, and they put it on. And I'm trying to think what the Arlington dude was. It Devontae Vaughn? We went to Cincinnati.
Guard, the little guard.
Yeah, the guard. It was like him versus Conley and Odin, but Lawrence North was so stacked because they had like Donald Cloutier, who went to like Central Michigan, and they had all these guys. Brandon McPherson went to Valpo. Yeah. They had a squad. They were like an AAU team at Lawrence North. I remember they'd be on like repeat. So I saw that game like 20 times. Yeah. But Monta Ellis was playing. Like it was a cool kind of channel to watch.
What do you got coming up now?
I will see Xavier and Marquette tomorrow. I will see Maryland and Nebraska on Sunday. I've got Purdue, Ohio State next week. So
I got one for you before we leave. All right, we're going to go through quickly the Big Ten, and you're going to tell me how many teams get into the tournament and who. Right.
All right, let me pull up a list of Big Ten teams here.
Yep. You're going to tell me right now. We'll automatically put in Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, Illinois, Oregon. Those 5 are locked to me today, right? Locked.
Yeah. I think Wisconsin gets in.
They're 6. That's 6. Is that it today? Is that it?
I think
that's
locked
today.
Like Ohio State has good quad ones, but they're 2 and 4 in the
UCLA
league.
was a lock 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. They got to start winning some games. Yep. Rutgers, I don't think gets in.
Maryland's still right on the bubble.
Maryland, I think, has a good chance to get in. Boy, USC 11-6, 3-3.
I mean, those final spots. Okay, so all I'm saying is Indiana. It's got to start tonight, Rob. It's got to start with a win in Columbus.
That's a massive game for both those teams. That really is. Yeah, in Indiana right now, outside looking in with their quad 1 situation. Yep. Ohio State in a much better place because of their quad 1 situation. Nebraska all of a sudden looking. I think if you asked about Nebraska a couple weeks ago, you'd say, all right, yeah, they're in a good spot. But
now, not great now.
They've really
Rutgers
struggled.
In trouble. Rutgers isn't in a great spot, obviously, being 10-8.
You know who's going to be an interesting team? Penn State, no bad losses, rough schedule early. They have played everybody that's good and beaten Purdue and kind of lost to the others. The Indiana loss doesn't look great right now. But they're a team that could see with the schedule easing, they start winning some games.
Yeah, and I'd say like could Northwestern go on a little bit of a run? Like I'm watching them last night and saying like, again, it's all about matchups right now.
But Northwestern needs a third scorer, and they need Ty Berry to revert to form. Tough for him missing the whole summer with that knee surgery.
All right, listen, I got to run. I'm going to enjoy this beautiful day while you freeze your ass off in Chicago.
It's 41 in Chicago today. It's going to be 8 tomorrow, though.
Nice. All right, I'll send you some video of what I'm doing tomorrow. All right.
Tremendous. I cannot wait.
I may play some mini golf with my wife today. It may be mini golf.
Go to the driving range. Work on your game.
Do that.
Hone your craft.
Find a pickleball place.
Yeah, do that.
Got to be.
Also, I love that you tweeted that I need to practice, and people were just like, "Jeff, you suck at everything."
I know. I'm like, what is this? What is
this? They know that you're not good. They know you're not good.
You've been ducking me for a year, and it does not look like Purdue's going to be a Final Four team. It also doesn't look like Scott Drew and Baylor are going to be a Final Four team. So this year in San Antonio,
No
I
excuses.
feel like we can get that matchup going.
All right. Valparaiso versus you and somebody else. Maybe Mark Few.
I'm gonna get Hansborough, I think.
That's not fair. He's like a pro. You can't do that. No,
Why
I want to
not?
play you. I'll play you in singles. No partners. Singles.
That's fine. That's fair. One game though. I don't know. Listen,
No.
I don't think I've
Best of three sets, old man.
We'll see. I'll see how much I eat in over the next couple months on
your
the road.
fat ass is going to be We'll roll you to the Final Four with you on your vacation tour here.
All right, there you have it. Goodman and Hummel Pod. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we are presented, as always, by